Well, hello Internet, and welcome to part 3 of my JavaScript Paint application tutorial. In this part of the tutorial, I'm going to completely finish up the Paint application. You absolutely have to watch the previous parts before you watch this, otherwise you will be confused because I'm not going to cover all the trigonometry involved. All the code's available in the description underneath the video, and I have a lot to do, so let's get into it. Alright, so in the last video I only made one error, so let's go and fix it, and there we go. So that is where we have redraw canvas image, and I forgot to put those zeros in there. Now with just a couple lines of code, I am going to come in here and set it up so we'll be able to draw rectangles, and then we'll build up from there. So let's scroll in here, and there's a couple things I'm going to have to do. Down here, after degrees to radians, I am going to create a new function. And it is going to be called update rubber band on move. And it's going to get past whatever the current mouse location is. And what I need to do here is store the changing height, width, and XY position of the most top left point. And that's going to be either based off of where we clicked originally or the current mouse location. And I'm going to have to call our function we created in the last tutorial, which is called update rubber band size data, and pass in the mouse location to that. And then I'm going to call a function I'm going to create here next called draw rubber band shape, and pass the mouse location to that. So now let's go and create the function where all of our shapes are going to be drawn, called draw rubber band shape. It is going to get the current mouse location, and I'm just going to draw a rectangle here to start. So I'm going to say stroke style, style, and that is going to be whatever the stroke color is that the user defines. And then I'm also going to get and define the fill color, which is going to be whatever the fill color was that the user defined. And then to draw a rectangle, I just say stroke rect and get the bounding box. So that's why I decided to go and use rectangles, because the bounding box already is a rectangle. I can use it to check that everything else is working properly. So it's going to start in the upper left hand corner and shape bounding box again, the top, and the bounding box, there we are, width, and then the shape bounding box, and that's going to be the height, and that will allow me to draw rectangles. Now all I need to do is go down into the mouse movement area, so right here, and I'm going to go and check if the user is currently holding the mouse down, which means that it's being dragged with the mouse down. So I'm going to say if I'm currently dragging, then I want to redraw my canvas image, because I have to do that every single time we go and add anything new to the canvas. And then call update rubber band on move and pass in the location for that. And with those couple changes, I should be able to draw rectangles. And if I come in here, yes indeed, I can draw rectangles. So super awesome. Now all I have to do is make this work for all of our other different shapes. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to set up all of the arrays and information for using brushes. First thing I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to create a boolean that's going to store whether I'm currently using the brush tool or not. And then I'm going to create two arrays. One is going to hold all of the X points, because the way the brush is going to work is it's going to draw a whole bunch of lines to simulate drawing a squiggly line like you would with a brush. And then I'm going to do exactly the same thing, so the X as well as the Y position, and then I will connect all of these different parts. Another thing I'm going to have to monitor is whether I am currently holding the mouse button down or not while drawing. Otherwise, all of the lines will connect forever. So I'm also going to store that inside of an array. And that's all I need to store for my brushes. So then I'm going to come down inside of here, and I'm also going to set up my polygons because my polygons are going to be different. They are also going to draw points and store points, and then they are going to connect all those points. So let's come down here and let's create that function. And this is going to get my polygon points. And we're going to be using a lot of trig here again. Very first thing I want to do is get the current angle, because I have to get the angle in radians based off of whatever the X and Y location is, which is what I covered in the last part of the tutorial. I'm going to have to say I'm going to have to convert from degrees to radians. And then I'm going to go and call my function called getAngle using X and Y. Going to pass inside of that whatever the current position is for my mouse. And then the X and Y for the X and Y point representing the radius is going to be equal to whatever the X and Y point is for my bounding box. So I can say radius X is equal to my shape bounding box width, and then I'm going to do the same thing to get the radius for Y, because basically a polygon is just going to be looked at as if it is a circle with the sides, cut like polygons are. So I'm going to have to go and create an array that is going to hold all of my polygon points. So let's create that. And then what I need to do is each point in the polygon is going to be found by breaking the parts of the polygon into triangles. And then what I'll be able to do is use the known angle and the adjacent side length to find the hypotenuses. So how that works out is if you want to find the X position for that line, what you're going to do is to find X, you go and get whatever the current mouse location is for X, and then add to that radius X times sine of whatever the angle is. And then for our Y position, we're going to do pretty much a similar thing. For Y, we're of course going to be using Y, and we will use the position, mouse position for that, and then we will subtract from this radius Y position, but we're going to be using the cosine. And like I said, I covered that in the last part of the tutorial. So let's go and get those. So I'm going to create a loop because I need a whole bunch of these. So I'm going to say that let's go I is equal to 0, and I'm going to continue doing this as long as I have polygon sides, and I went and defined how many polygon sides at the top of the code here, and I'm going to of course increment I each time. And then inside of my polygon points array, I'm going to push on each of those points, and I'm going to go and create a new polygon point class or object, and then go location X and use these formulas that I just showed you. So I'm going to say radius X multiplied times the sine of whatever the angle is. And then I'm going to do pretty much the same thing for Y. I'll go and get the mouse position Y minus the radius Y times cosine of whatever the angle is. And there it is. So that's how we're going to get that. And then what I need to do is divide the 360 degree total for the whole way around the polygon into parts based off of how many polygon sides I have. So I'm going to increment the angle each time through the loop, multiplied times math pi divided by polygon sides, because 2 times pi is going to be equal to 360 degrees. So polygon sides. And there we go. And then after I do all of that, I will have all my sides, and I will be able to say polygon points and return that. Then I'm going to have a function that is called get the polygon, and there's that. And I'm going to call that from this guy down here, draw rubber band shapes. And what it's going to do is go polygon points is going to be equal to, and it's going to call this function that we just created, get polygon points. Let's go and just copy that. And then we will begin drawing our polygon. So begin path. And then we need to move to our first point for our polygon. So we'll say move to polygon points, and the first part is going to be in the 0 index, and that's going to be for x. And then once again, polygon points, again 0 index for y. And then we can loop through the rest of the points. So we'll say I is equal to, we're going to start with 1 because we already got 0 here. And we'll continue to do this depending upon how many polygon sides we have defined, and we'll be able to use this no matter how many different sides you want. You can go in and experiment with that. And then I just draw the lines. So draw from each polygon point to whatever the other polygon points are. Like that, and x, and polygon points again, I, and this is going to be y. And then after we draw the last one, we will say that we want to close the path, which is going to go from the very last point that we drew to the very first one. And that's how we are able to draw polygons. Okay, so now it's time to make the brush work. So I'm going to create a function that is going to allow us to add our brush points as we drag around on the screen. It's going to get X and Y and whether the mouse is currently being held down. That way we'll be able to divide up the brushes that we're going to be creating because these are a great big giant array. So I'm going to push on my X value, and then I'm going to do the same thing for the Y value. And then I'm going to do the same thing for whether it's being held down or not. So pass the Y on there, and there we go. And then brush down position, and we'll push that true or false, whether it's being held down or not. Now we have to be able to cycle through all those points on our brushes and go and print them onto the canvas. I'm going to call this draw brush. Not going to receive anything. It's just going to cycle through all of the different points and draw them. So I'm going to go I while the brush points, as long as we have additional points in our X array, we'll know that we should continue cycling. And then I need to begin drawing my path. And then I need to check if the mouse was down at this point or not. So I'll just say brush down, position. And this is the way that you would also implement a system where you wanted to store all of your different shapes that you draw with. Okay, so I'm going to go one back from where it was, and then brush Y points, and again, one back from where it was. And that's if it's being held down. Otherwise, if it's not, well then I need to go back one. So I'm going to go like this, and then I -1, and then brush Y points with I. And after I cycle through all of those, I can say line 2, brush XY points, I, and brush Y points, again I, to connect the points. And then after I have that set, I can call for close path, and then after that, stroke. All right, and that is how we go and create all those points as well as draw with our brush. And now I need to set it up so that we can draw with the different tools that we have. So I'm going to have this here because this is going to be the same for all of our different things we're going to draw with. Then I'm going to first check to see if the current tool is equal to brush or not. And if it is, well then I'm just going to call draw brush, and it's going to draw it, and the world is going to be great. Okay, so I don't need to do anything else with that. Else if our current tool is equal to line, well, in that situation, I'm going to draw the line, very simple, and I'll just say begin path to start drawing some new element. I'm going to move to wherever the mouse was originally clicked down on, so mouse down and mouse down on the Y point, and then I can go line 2, wherever the mouse currently is located inside of the canvas. And then I can also, or then after I have that, I can stroke it. And there it is. So that's how we do that. Else if current tool, and then we just keep adding on to these. So if the current tool is a rectangle, well, we already knew what we're going to do for that, and we already know that it works. So if it's a rectangle in that situation, we just go and get this, cut that out of there, paste it inside, and there we got that handled. Else if current tool is equal to, and then we're going to do circles. So circle. And for circles, I'm going to have to first get our radius. And I can do that because it's, you know, the same the whole way around. I can just go shape bounding box, and shape bounding box width, and that will give me my radius. And then I just start drawing it. So I say begin path again, and then I start drawing the circle, which I do with arc, and I can say mouse down. I could do this with ellipse too, but I decided to do it with arc just because I wanted to be able to cover a whole bunch of things. And mouse down Y, pass in your radius. I want to start at 0 degrees, and I want to go to 360 degrees, which is pi times 2. Then I just call stroke, and it draws the circle. All right, and we are chugging along here. Then we say else if current tool is equal to ellipse. And if it's equal to ellipse, we're going to have to get the different radiuses. So we're going to have one radius is going to be equal to the shape bounding box is width, and that's going to be divided by 2. And then we're going to get the other one by using its height. And so this looks really complicated, but if you take everything and break it down, it gets pretty easy. All right, so there's ellipse. And then we want to start drawing it. So we will say again, begin path, and we can use ellipse to draw it. And we just want where the mouse was originally clicked down and where the mouse was then, or the radius on x-axis and radius on the y-axis. And then pi divided by 4, which is going to handle my rotation of my ellipse. And then I'm going to start at the 0 degrees up through 360, which is pi times 2 again, and then stroke it. And there we go. Else if current tool is equal to polygon, and that's going to be easy. I just go get polygon like that, and then stroke it. All right, great. So now that we have all that set up, all I need to do is handle the events and how they call these functions, and we're done. All right, so down in React to Mouse Down, a couple things we're going to have to do, totally pertaining to the fact that the brush tool works in a completely different way. We're going to say, if we are currently using a brush, then what we need to do is we're going to first mark that the brush is currently in use because the mouse is down. So let's set that to true. And then we need to add our brush point. So brush point. And we're going to do basically the same thing again whenever the mouse is moved. So there we go, and there we go. All right, so we're done with React to Mouse Down. Now for React to Mouse Move, we're basically going to do the same type of thing. We're going to go right after this guy, and we're going to say if current, again, tool is equal to brush. And then we're going to check for a couple things. If it's brush and we are currently dragging and we are using brush, well, in that situation, then we are going to throw away any brush drawings that occur outside of our canvas because that will cause some issues. So we're going to say location X as long as it's greater than 0, and location X as long as it's less than the canvas width, and location Y greater than 0. And if the location Y is less than canvas height, well, then we will be able to draw. So we will then just go add brush, point, and location X and location Y. And that's good. And then after we do that, we can, or we have to, redraw our canvas image. And we also need to draw our brush. And else, if we're not using that, well, then all we need to do is get this guy right here and paste him inside of there, right like that. And we're done with the mouse movement reactions. And now all that is left is react to mouse up, which I don't believe I need to do anything with. So let's save it and test it. And can we use our brush tool? Yes, we can. And can we use our line tool? Yes, we can. And rectangles, yes. And circles, yes. And ellipses, yes. And polygons, yes. And then if we want to save it, we just click on this guy right here, and then that's going to save this guy right here. You can see it just downloaded the image, see image 2, And we're also going to be able to load images like I did right there. That was a previous squiggle that I did. All right, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this tutorial. It was a blast to make, and more JavaScript tutorials are coming. And like always, please leave your questions and comments below. Otherwise, till next time.